Are you one of those people that hopes that the books balance at the end of the month? Perhaps you have someone who keeps the bookkeeping so you can focus on business. Can you still keep track of the bottom line in that regards? And are you able to understand the power of your numbers for business success? My guest today, Karen Dyrenforth, understands the confusion, frustration, hardships, and challenges of being a woman entrepreneur who's challenged by understanding the true power of the numbers on the financial spreadsheet. She recognizes the way women have been taught about money and business and how their success comes around with the compassion that she can bring forward to the numbers by changing the way women engage with their business numbers and plan for their financial success. Her business is called Badass Business Coaching, and I think that says it all. Karen Dyrenforth guides entrepreneurs to keep their books lean and mean, maximize revenue streams, and build dream teams. She is a thinking partner who understands what it takes to grow a business and enjoy the journey. As recent events have led to countless women losing access to their livelihoods, Karen believes women entrepreneurs are in an unrivaled position to help their communities and the economy to get back on track and to grow. Karen and I have worked together on several projects this year, and it's always a delight to be in the presence of her genius. You're listening to Be Well with Michelle Greenwell, sponsored by the Cape Breton Tea Company and Dance Debut Inc. Please welcome Karen Dyrenforth. Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm doing well, Michelle. Thank you. I'm feel very privileged to be here and chatting with you today.
Awesome. So I want to start with cutting the card deck. So I've taken the affirmations for the body and biofield. And for those that are on the podcast that can't see what I'm holding up, I've got the front cover, which has an image on it that's a ribbon of color. And it's called Baby and Child, and how we nurture ourselves and how we provide support to ourselves as we go forward. And that's the design of these podcasts, is to bring that idea forward. So Karen, I had to laugh when I cut the deck, because you and I have talked about Tai Chi and Chi building. And I actually pulled the card for Middle Dantian. So that's the center of the body. It's around the heart chakra, and it's how we move things from our gut instinct and our intellectual instinct and pass it through the heart. So we know that we're resonating. So I thought that was fitting for today. So I'm going to hold the card up so people can see. And it is bright pink red. And it looks like a flower, but it has these tiny little images of hearts that are in the center. And there's a green, almost stem-like piece at the bottom, but it also has a heart or a center of pink. So this one is breathe in. Let your inner core energy soften into the subtle energy of your body. Allow all your energies to flow. Surrender to the inner knowing that speaks tenderly in your ear and your heart, and seek gentle awareness becoming and unfolding. And this card does, for me, when I think about you and I think about your program and how you approach financing and numbers, I was thinking about how often we hold our breath and get stuck. And then also our inability to let go. When we don't understand something, we actually grip it harder. And so this card for me was just so fitting. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, I really liked how the resonance of bringing intellectual and gut instinct together through the heart, because I think women are more prone to processing information that way, like bringing the intuition and the practical thinking together. It's been my experience, even with my clients, that they know their business, but in the ability to access some practical key information, not that they don't know what to do, they're just not confident about what they're looking at. And that's what I want to bring to this is through my program, is to help women build their confidence, because we're just not educated or encouraged or even enculturated to think in terms of business and how to make a business sustain successfully. So I think women struggle with that, and I want to eliminate that struggle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And as we're looking at that card, surrender to the inner knowing that speaks tenderly in your ear and your heart.
Yes.
So for those people listening to this podcast, we start each episode with some kind of intention and affirmation to get in flow so that as we go through the conversation, you actually are balanced for these kind of ideas. And so what Karen's bringing in her expertise today is going to help you to let go of holding on to those financial pieces you don't understand or that you're struggling with, and to actually help you to be in flow, to go find the assistance that you need and to be able to know what questions even to ask. And so that's what we're setting in place today. Yeah.
And I just want to say, Michelle, I love what you do because I think it's also kind of an important starting point in the day to be in balance and be open to what possibilities exist there for all of us as women entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, so in order to get this enacted and bring these goals forward, what kind of a mug or cup have you got with you today? So we can.
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. My daughter works at a beautiful little shop called Passion Flower. I want to see if I can hold it without it getting. Anyway, she gave me this mug. It has a picture of a mushroom on it, and it says "Shiitake happens." And I like the shape of the mug. It's kind of got an unusual little shape here, but yeah, it just reminds me of her whenever I pull it out and make my tea.
And today you're focused on water. You're hydrating today.
Actually, I am hydrating today. I'm getting over some slight illness, and water is very important in the whole scheme of getting better. So, yes, thank you very much. But I want to say that I have purchased your teas, and I've given them as gifts to my family members, my female family members, and they all raved about it. So, and you helped me so much with that. It was such a delight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. Yeah, it's wonderful to be able to ship the tea off and see what happens. You know, where does it go? What does it do? What's the life that it has? So, yeah, I'm very grateful that you were able to do that for your family. I've got, for me today, I have a cup. This is from the Cape Breton Tea Company. This is the Marvelous Miss Maple. And it's a black tea, which has a richness of the maple syrup that we have around here where I am. And the black leaves, when you go to mix it, actually has gold flecks that run through it, which makes it fun actually for me when I go to make it. But what I did was I was thinking of something kind of classical. And then I have
look at that.
This mug, which was given to me by someone actually who supported my business by volunteering. Every time she felt there was something that needed to happen, she put her hand in and assisted me, and she helped me grow my business. And at that time, that was in the fitness industry. So this little mug is always a reminder of friendship and support that we can do to each other. And I think you and I, that's kind of what's happened. So that was kind of the impetus for today. So I'm going to give you a cheers, Karen.
Lovely.
Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Well, cheers to you too, Michelle. Thank you.
And for those that are listening, I hope you've got something that you can take a sip of.
That's a beautiful little cup.
It's just so much fun. So much fun. And that maple is, I don't know, it's a mug of fun. And maple is, maple syrup on pancakes, like it's just that homey kind of feel.
Very much, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive into the homey kind of feel that happens when people get a chance to work with you and work with your understanding of finance and budgets. So can you share how you got into the business? Because you've been working with finance as an accounting person, And that wasn't a kind of a regular role that women took. And so how did you get into it, and how did you find that niche that you're in?
Well, thank you for asking, Michelle. I have spent my career working in both international and national companies. And one of my jobs was to actually analyze the information at the end of every month. So all the accounting information would get put together, and then the traditional balance sheet, profit and loss statement, cash flow statements would be produced. And my job was to go through the P&L, as they call the profit and loss statement, and just look at what's happening there, because that's where companies, in my experience, and the C-suite executives would look to find out what's going on in the business and make decisions going forward. And so in doing that and drilling down, it was very interesting to me to notice trends. So I would compare month to month, like a prior year month to the current year month. And then I would also compare quarter to quarter. And that would give, the C-suite executives the information that they needed. And sometimes when I would drill down, I would have to go to like department managers or whatever to say, hey, I'm noticing this trend, like your expenses are going up. So what's going on there? I would have to find out so that I could provide that information. And from there, the decision would be made, hey, you need to reduce your expenses, or we need to bring in more money to support whatever this project is that's costing more than we originally budgeted for. But at the end of every year, the companies would create a budget based on historical information. And from that, they would move forward and that's how the business would run. They would use the budget as a guideline. And if they were pretty close to the budget, things were going great, fine. If they were way out of whack, then that was the time to really stop and take a look and say, what's going on here? Do we need to adjust, or is there something really wrong happening in the business that we need to correct? Mm-hmm. So I took that. I sat in so many meetings, and even men tend to glaze over sometimes when you're talking numbers. I had one CEO that, he just was like, just tell me what the bottom line is. Well, that didn't speak to me of a lot of confidence of the guy running the company. But I realized that I really started feeling like I have all this knowledge, and I want to help women be successful, because I've seen brilliant businesses not do very well that were run by women. Great ideas and really putting themselves out there. I mean, any woman that has the courage to start a business is my hero to begin with, because there's so much competition. But business has always been perceived as the realm of men. And I feel like women really have the heart that they not only support themselves, but they reach out and are inclusive of their communities. So that was kind of the idea struck me that, hey, I want to support women in business. And after I retired working for corporations, that was my focus. And I just really want women to succeed, because I have a quote that kind of has stuck with me through this journey, which is from the Dalai Lama. And he said, Western women will save the world. And in my mind, I think that applies to women entrepreneurs. So that's my drive. That's what's keeping me going, is and women like you who incorporate some very important practices And so it's not just all about the intellectual things that we do. Getting into our bodies, getting into movement is really allowing us to tap into the energy and the flow, which is what I think is very important also. But you just don't see it that often out in the business world.
Right. Well, and that's just so interesting to think about how your whole well-being is affecting those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And then even the numbers, how they can reflect back then too on your well-being.
Yes, very much.
Because if you're not watching numbers, you could just be walking in the fog. And walking in the fog doesn't necessarily mean you have mastered command over the things that you really think you'd like to be mastering. But then you also have the second part of that, which is when you are watching the numbers, you can take in so much that could make you sick if you weren't paying attention to how you adjust those numbers. Yeah.
And I personally have experienced so much stress, like in the work environment, that sometimes it would really kind of cause me distress. And realizing that I need to kind of step back, take a beat, find my own balance before coming back to whatever the problem is that I'm trying to reconcile. But women are drivers sometimes, and they will just drive themselves into the ground, and you don't have any capacity to really see the big picture or, come to some sort of reconciliation with what you're doing if you don't have, that balance. I guess of what I'm talking about, the being healthy mentally and physically. But the mental stress really does affect physical health. And I've seen it happen. And I've even experienced it myself, So I want women to be able to find balance and be successful all at the same time.
As I'm thinking about what you said previous to that, is our heart-centered approach to how we run our businesses. And so when you've got that driving force, we know it's a good thing. So we do it because we know it's a good thing. It's not always logical, not always financially positive, but we know we're doing a good thing. And I think that's where the patriarchal business model has all been around, climbing that ladder to the highest rung. But women don't always think in that capacity because of that heart-centered piece that keeps pulling them in certain directions. Yeah. Did you want to talk a little bit more about some of those pieces and what that means for how you've approached the way you're bringing your programming to people?
Yes, thank you. I really want this to be fun, like enjoyable, because my experience again is when you're in an environment of play, actually, you learn much better. You take in the information and you can absorb it more readily. And I think that, in terms of numbers, and I've talked to a lot of people about it, there's all kinds of reactions. And that's what people are having, are reactions to it. Like, oh, I don't know what, what's the important stuff to look at here, or I'm just not a numbers person, so we get this mindset that we don't know what to do with that information or how it can really help our business. And I want to change that mindset. And for women, I worked from a very masculine perspective in this business, and I had to kind of train myself to think that way in order to do my job. But I think for women, there really is a more feminine approach. And that's the thing that I want to instill in my program, is to have this learning be more heart-centered and stress more of the intuition that's married or merged with the practical. And I'm thinking in particular of one client I had who came to me, was during COVID. She had a retail business in her local town, and she opened another store in another town. And she just wasn't sure if she could hire more staff. She wasn't sure she'd made the right decision about opening the other store. She'd kind of done it on gut instinct. And then when COVID hit, all of a sudden she was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can keep my doors open. I don't know. And when we sat down and kind of started going through the information together, we found that her store was doing so much better than the previous owner of the store, and that she was capable, and she did have the capacity to hire more salespeople that she needed, and to do some of the things that she was wanting to do with getting additional inventory in. I mean, I think just the fact that I took the time to sit with her and go through her numbers, and in an easeful way, that it really helped build her confidence. And she's been doing great since then. I mean, she's had her kind of ups and downs, but she was able to remodel her flagship store. And, just all along the way, just kind of, we had a lot of discussions, and I was just a thinking partner for her. Like, what do you think is the best thing to do? Oh, have you thought about this? It was a really great experience for me to build that relationship over, I think it was almost 2 years we worked together. And she's a friend now. She's somebody I really enjoy seeing and talking with whenever we get a chance to see each other. It's just really delightful because, it's all about building relationships. And women, that's what women do. We build relationships.
It's interesting as you describe that, because I'm thinking about the idea of a strategic plan. And it's an ominous piece. And to be able to sit down and work on it, it's an isolated piece.
Yeah.
And so from a perspective of how do you start to gain the insights, how do you fill out those sections that comes into that strategic plan, what you're talking about is women need it from a different angle, in a different way than that linear approach.
I think so. I mean, I know Kim always had an overview of her business, and she is a very smart woman. And, but, just like you were talking about, having that strategic plan in place for whatever was happening at the time, or what she could project, she could see coming. I think that really helped her a lot to feel confident about moving forward with her decisions.
And it was together, the two of you worked through that strategic plan rather than, sit down, write your strategic plan, and then have somebody review it.
Right.
Which is a typical way.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she wasn't alone in the process, and she's doing quite well today. So.
Yeah. And as I was thinking about, that well-being part of it, when you feel like you've been seen and heard, but you also have the opportunity to collaborate, because that's the way a lot of women work, that changes the stress level around the finances, but also the planning. And then you've got the stress level around implementation.
Yeah.
Because if it's on a piece of paper and you're not meeting your goals, that's one thing when you look at it and your body reacts. But it's another thing when you've talked it through with someone and you go, yes, we're not meeting those numbers, but I understand how I need to maneuver and work through this. And it's more of a signal than it is so much a threat.
Right. I love that you put it that way, Michelle. because that in my career, that was kind of what I was looking for, the signals and how to be able to pivot from that information in whatever direction the business needs to pivot. And I think that's really the key to, sustaining a successful business, is having the ability to watch for the signals and pivot.
And I'm just thinking about your approach too of looking at well-being, and then that opportunity that when your body and your brain is in flow and balanced, you're not reacting to the numbers. You're actually in a place where you can, somebody said to me, use your curiosity or investigate, which is again a lot different than that number's not doing what it's supposed to do, and then that tension comes in, and instead it moves you towards that intuitive approach, but not so that how you're feeling causes you to react, but you feel well, and so your opportunity to interact is different. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned something at the beginning also about when we, what I was hearing was like clamp down because we don't know what's going on, or, we're feeling that tension. And I mean, I know just physically clamping down on anything cuts the flow of creativity. It cuts the flow off from everything. And you cannot move forward and see possibilities when you're clamped down like that. So being able to stay in flow and stay in movement keeps the creativity coming. And I know that that's really an important piece of the whole picture. And but we don't get taught that in school, we just get taught the practical aspects of it.
Exactly. And I think about when I took accounting in, I don't know what grade that was, grade 10 maybe. And for me, it was the excitement of the columns, the numbers, what it looked like.
The structure of
it. Which was fun to play with. And of course, at that point, you're not working on a computer. For me, that was pencil to the paper. Which was interesting to put things into an order, I guess is what I'm saying. But as you were just describing some of the key pieces there, I could feel where, that tension would come in. So when I know I have to take that spreadsheet and I've got to get all of the invoices and everything onto the spreadsheet, I can feel where the tension creeps in. So as you were talking, I was thinking about how I avoid that job. I work around all other things, and it's still sitting there, it's driving me crazy because it's still sitting there. But there's this, exactly what you were saying, that the creativity and the intuitive ability disappears in that tension. And you just can't get to it because you keep choosing all the things that give you a little bit more joy. Even though there's the greatest joy when you've completed the task. But that's really interesting, because if we didn't react that way, how much easier the month would go, how much more exciting it would be to look at the way we're interacting with our business all month long. Yeah.
Great insights, Michelle. Great insights.
From my perspective of where my stress level is with finances. But I'm assuming a lot of other people are in that same boat, unless they've had the privilege of somebody who's really supported them to not have that reaction. But I don't think that's many of us. So as we're looking at what women can think of in looking at these programs and looking at the way they're interacting with people who can advise, with programs that are available, even with realizing that they might be approached with that old model. I'm going to call it the old model because it really is outdated. It doesn't work. So can you tell me a little bit more about what you're bringing in, the programming that you're bringing out, and what women can look forward to in having the opportunity to learn these skills?
Sure. I can kind of give you a brief overview. I think the first thing that I want to be able to start with in the program is mindset. So just finding out where their thinking is in terms of their business and how the numbers can support the business, or have they even thought about that? And just doing some fun interactive things that will help to shift that mindset, so that when somebody says numbers, it's not this it kind of a reactive thing that will be felt in the body, but more of like you said, a curiosity. I really love that term, because I think when we are curious about things, then we have the ability to really play with it, whatever it is we're curious about. So I want to have that element of curiosity in the program. And I also want to incorporate movement. So you and I have talked about collaborating, and one of the modules that I want to present in the program will be what you teach, as far as creating the intention, and I love the card deck that you use, because I think that brings the intuition into it. And having that be a foundational piece to my program. And then, talk about, and I want to kind of make it, a fun process, but talk about budgeting, because really that's a key element that I have found that some women just really don't think about. But it's a guideline. Yeah. I mean, you got money coming in, you got money going out. So what's going on there? But having a budget is sort of it's kind of like navigating with an instrument panel for pilots. If you don't have your navigation in place, you can end up anywhere. So to me, that budgeting is a way to navigate and course correct when you find that you might be getting a little off course. But it's, again, like I said, it's like a key element for businesses that are successful. So those are just some of the basic ideas that I have that I'm including in my program. And above all, I want feedback, from the participants, and meet them where they are, wherever they are in the group. But then, have everybody feel that they're fully supported in whatever it is they're trying to accomplish, whatever goals they're trying to meet.
And I think you said something interesting, and I had a conversation with someone yesterday on the same idea, is a lot of times we try to fix things by ourselves, and we may hire someone to support us with that. So we've got a coach in some capacity to try to get us on that track where we want to be. But what happens for women is we do have this, I don't want to say need, but this desire for the conversation, for the connection, for the collaboration. And so your approach of bringing people into a group setting to look at finances means that you have people who are hearing conversations that might not have come up on a one-to-one experience, might not have even been on their radar, but became a problem-solving opportunity for something that was coming down the pipe that they weren't aware of. And just that ability also to help other people to have that conversation where they've given input and support, and now they can build up that confidence and that realization that they have skill, and that skill is getting stronger. And your approach to bring it into a group setting means that they can embody finances in such a different way than that one-on-one coaching, or take that course that says do this, that, and the next thing. And you really are changing the dynamics around programming for finances. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for encapsulating that.
Well, it was interesting as the conversation came around yesterday, and I've always worked better in a group setting. And I think that comes from being a dance instructor, and you've got a room full of people collaborating on a routine or a show or whatever you're working on. So it never occurred to me that that value of that experience could be in other areas of life. And we're in such a place of, I have some skill I need, I'll go take a course, I'll fix the problem, I'll solve the way it's going to work. And it didn't occur to me that that collaborative piece has really been a piece that's been missing for a long time. Yeah. And I just know everybody comes to life when they're together in the room. It's a different mechanics for it. Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about that maybe I didn't touch on?
I could talk about a lot, but for today, I really like how we've kind of come around full circle on this, and the opportunity to speak just specifically about some of the elements of my program. So, I can't think of anything right now off the top of my head that I have a burning desire to talk about. Just that I just love supporting women. I just really feel that passion every day when I wake up in the morning, because I think women are great. Not dissing men, but just saying, we've come a long way, and I think we have a lot further to go.
Mm-hmm. And I'm fascinated too by taking that conversation over to women figuring out how it's going to work for them in this different kind of model that hasn't been explored all that much. But then how can you bring that back to the world's model, which is how we all work together, and everybody's mixed up in how we do that. But what kind of gifts can we bring out of this experience that will be able to change maybe the way men feel about money? Like you said, the CEO glossing over, it's too much knowledge, perhaps the model hasn't been working as well as everybody thought it was. And,
right.
What does that new model look like? So, yeah, beautiful. Okay. So we try to always finish the podcast with some kind of a movement activity to remind people, number one, if they've been listening to the podcast and sitting down, to get up and get moving, get that brain integrated again. What's kind of your go-to thing?
Oh, I like to kind of stand and just allow my body to do whatever it feels like it wants to do. I kind of try to tap into that intuitive flow, I guess, if you will, of allowing, like, what does it need right now in the moment? So, when I can start to just move. And one of my teachers said, if you want to shift your energy, just shift one little thing, like do something that you wouldn't normally do in your body positioning. So, putting your hand here, like, for example, or like a hand behind the head, which is not something I normally do, but it will shift the energy. If you're feeling stuck in your energy, you just move something on your body that will shift the energy and get you unstuck pretty easily. It's amazing.
It's pretty simple. I'm thinking, I never thought of that, because sometimes people, if they're sitting at their desk and they're kind of focused in and they're forward from their chair, just taking that moment to relax, right? So you lean back
Lean
into
back.
the chair, the hands go over top of the head, maybe they go behind the head. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, the shoulders feel different and, the breath is expanded and yeah, where does that take me now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very simple. I love it. I love it. And mine's close to that. Today I was thinking about, there's a program called Map the Tap, but it's mapping numbers through the feet. And
Through the
so the
feet.
way that you tap your feet can count, but it can also create knowledge about numbers. So I was thinking about, usually in Cape Breton here, we have, when the music starts up, the Celtic music, the foot starts to beat. And that rhythm pattern is instantly there. But you instantly transfer that rhythm pattern through the body. So same idea as what you were talking about. And that pump creates the opportunity for fluid to move from the feet up back into the body.
Oh, wow.
Blood and lymph is going to move. And all you've done is tap your foot. But you can also start to think by numbers, and you can call numbers out. And that seems a little bit crazy, but sometimes just to count it through. And dancers would say, well, tradition would be 5, 6, 7, 8.
Right.
Properly would be 4, 3, 2, 1, something like that. And you could do that with your feet, but you can also do your half beats. You can do light beats. So just playing around with the feet and let them kind of guide you. Joy happens pretty quickly when all of a sudden the rhythm pattern is going and the feet are moving. And in Cape Breton here, you'd see a fiddler. Fiddlers have their own style of how they tap their feet or stomp their feet. And some will have one foot is going to do the bass beat and the other one will be doing all of the fancy stuff.
Wow.
Which is quite intricate, but the joy that comes out of the visual of that and the joy that comes out of the body is truly amazing. So, yeah.
That is so cool.
So now when you're sitting at your desk today, finishing off your tasks, you'll be able to go, okay, did I tap my feet today and what rhythm pattern did I do?
Yeah.
Oh, Karen, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. And I look forward to your program coming forward for people. And I'm very excited to be a part of it in the ways that we can bring movement and opportunity for intuition to develop. And I know that when people start to think differently about the numbers and the way that you've envisioned it, I know it's really going to make a huge shift for women. And I'm excited for that. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Michelle. And just in the realm of shameless plug, I have a free offering for anybody who goes to my website, www.badassbusinesscoaching.com. And there's a PDF that you can download. And I think it's 5 steps. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I'm so not prepared, but just go check it out. If you want the PDF, just give, you can sign into your email address and you'll get sent the download. So it's
Perfect.
A free gift.
Perfect. And I'm glad that you brought that because I forgot to ask you that question. So badasscoaching.com, right?
Badassbusinesscoaching.com.
Badassbusinesscoaching.com. So for those people looking for your programming and for your free gift, then that'll get them set up and get them started.
Yep.
So, beautiful. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's been a pleasure.
Season 3, we're devoted to the transformational process that happens when people reach into their authentic selves and then they create magic. And our season has several different focuses within the month, and we hope they inspire and empower you to consider living your true heart's desire with the love and compassion for others at the forefront. Thank you for joining us. This is Be Well with Michelle Greenwell, wishing you well-being. Take care.